Hello and welcome to the Sports Podcast presented by the Collings Thode Network. I'm your host, Curtis Collings, along with
Nolan Thode.
It's been a little while since we've done this, but the NFL season has concluded, and we'd love to give some thoughts about it.
Yeah, it was just last Sunday. The season wrapped up, and we've talked a lot of football in the podcast, but just a little bit of a closeout to the season, and we're gonna be more focused on basketball and hockey in the coming weeks, and then the baseball season when that starts to roll around. But I guess we'll do our final little goodbye to the 2022-23 NFL season. And I guess we'll jump right into the big game. The Kansas City Chiefs were victorious 38-35 over the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought it was a good game.
I thought it was a very entertaining game. As more of a casual football fan, as a more casual football watcher, I love this game.
Yeah, no, it was a great game. It was just obviously disappointing kind of how it ended. Not so much that the Chiefs were the winners, just kind of,
the fact it ended. Well, it wasn't the two teams that ended the game, if you think about it in a way.
Yeah, even though it was a penalty, when you look at the textbook definition of holding, it's just when a play like that decides the whole season, essentially. Not so much decides the whole season. There was a whole game. But it is kind of comes down to that. It was just kind of out of nowhere. And I just remember as soon as that flag was thrown, as soon as it was indicated it was going to be on Philadelphia, the game was over.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knew it.
The Eagles only had one timeout left at that point, and there was like there was like a minute and 40 seconds left on the clock. So, I mean, that is 100 seconds. But, it just... the next play, McKinnon takes a rush, and then the Eagles were just they were ready to let them score because
they wanted him to score.
It's pretty much all you can do at that point. But he did the smart thing and sits down at the goal line, and then they ultimately kick the field goal with like 8 seconds left or something like that, and then
they gave it to him with like 3 seconds left.
Philly had one play, and Jalen Hurts' arm can only.
He looks like it was like the Tua jokes on that final play whenever Tua tries to air it out deep. But yeah, a deflating way to end the Super Bowl, but like a dominant game by the Chiefs after they came back in that second half, where it was like when you really experience that entire second half, you can't really blame it on the refs. The Chiefs it felt destined to win that game based off how they came out that second.
Yeah, even in the first half, it was. So hesitant to fully jump on the Eagles. The fact that they were going to win, I didn't think they would, and they ultimately didn't. But they pretty much, for most of the game at least, their offense was rolling, and I thought they were outplaying the Chiefs. I really thought that.
Yeah, so long as they don't give up that Kelsey touchdown really early on, like I think they have. Like, honestly, that Kelsey touchdown that started the game and cashed my anytime Kelsey touchdown score. If they don't get that touchdown, I think the Eagles make a lot less mistakes because they just have more confidence. Because if you think about every single other playoff game for the Eagles, how many points did their opponents put up? Mm-hmm. And how long did it take them to score those points? Like, they had all the confidence in the world just because their defense was so stifling. So, no, I got nothing but respect for the Chiefs for that one. Sucks that the officials had to make a call at the end of the game, but it was a great game, and that team is so good. Top to bottom. You lose your star wide receiver and it don't matter.
Yeah, I think everybody else kind of stepped up in the role of Tyreek Hill, and obviously losing a guy like that is going to hurt your team, but still got the greatest tight end in the league, potentially of all time, depends who you talk to, and I know speaking for myself, he's definitely the best that I've seen. Maybe Gronk's up there, but still, I wasn't like. Yeah,
we were tail end Gronk. Yeah, we were tail end Gronk, who was still amazing. Like, we still got to see Madden cover Gronk. Yeah, that's how good he was, and that wasn't his prime. So Kelsey's got a lot of competition, but yeah, when you have the best tight end in the game, you have the best quarterback in the game. Like, it's hard. It's hard to lose.
And arguably the best coach, I think, now after 2 Super Bowls. Andy Reid was already very well respected within the coaching community, but now the fact that he has 2 Super Bowl rings and probably is going to get another 1 or 2 before it's all said and done, I think you can start to put him, up there with the Belichicks
Yeah,
up there with
honestly.
the Lombardis and
Or the,
yeah,
yeah, champagne
the best
types.
coaches of all time.
But it's,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
was
think
just
Andy
thinking
Reid's.
about that. Is like, what more does he have to do to take the mantle of top coach in the league? Is it still Bill Belichick? Like,
Yeah.
after the last, like, few seasons the Patriots had, like, when the Patriots had 10 wins, everyone was in agreement. Oh, Bill Belichick is that guy. But after last season, it might
Mhm.
be time to look at guys like Andy Reid as the best coach in the league, especially with the Chiefs locking up the 1 seed. That helps. That helps a lot in his case.
Yeah, I think he's able to make adjustments in game that a lot of other coaches aren't. Uh, he seemed to call the perfect game there, at a perfect second half at least, and just putting a guy. Even Mahomes is still Mahomes, and his ankle, on some of those
Yeah,
runs
how
didn't look
hurt
like
was
it
it
was.
really?
But yeah, he was able to just put his QB in a position to be successful. His QB or his completion percentage was one of the best in Super Bowl history,
Yeah,
and I think that's a
21
lot
for
of.
27, or was it 20 for 26? Like, I know I
He
know
was, yeah,
he,
21
yeah.
for 27.
Yeah, he
And I
only
think
missed
a
six
lot of that is
throws.
just the plays that are drawn up. I think Andy Reid was relying on the run game a little bit more. They averaged 6 yards per carry
Yeah,
on the
which
run
is
game.
huge.
Pacheco, whatnot. He was huge for them. He had 76 rushing yards and a touchdown, averaging 5 yards per carry. And then you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and that was kind of the strength of their team the whole season was the
Yeah.
run game. And other than Jalen Hurts, it was
Yeah,
kind of.
Hurts had it rolling the entire game there, but
Mhm.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
you didn't really see
70 rushing yards, 15 attempts.
Saunders, did he end up playing in that game? Cuz I
Yeah, he
didn't
had he
notice
had
him.
yeah, exactly. He had 7 rushing attempts for 16 yards, total
Yeah.
of
Cuz I know,
2.29
yeah,
yards
he
per
was
carry.
injured going into the game, so I wasn't really looking for him much while watching it, and then it really kind of turned into the Hurts show out there
Hmm.
for a while. Like, incredible. That's one of the best like quarterback performances we've ever seen in the Super Bowl, in all fairness, but like, again, it's a team thing, and I just think that Philadelphia Eagles team just didn't show up.
Yeah, I think uh, when it mattered most, they didn't. Their offense was slower in the second half than it was in the first half, and then their defense didn't get a single stop in the second half. Um,
Yeah, that
to my
was
knowledge, I'm pretty sure.
not
Like
none that I saw.
I think it was 3 touchdown drives, and then the field goal at the end was the Chiefs' 4 drives in the second half. So
Yeah,
Eagles D wasn't able to come up big.
another
I
guy
think.
on the Eagles offense was AJ Brown for me, but like, I didn't see him very much. But again, like, the second
He.
half, for the second
Hmm.
half, it was hard to see any Eagles players. But
Hmm. Yeah, I just think, it is what it is. And I think the bitter taste that was left in my mouth after the Super Bowl was just the fact that Jalen Hurts was seemingly the star of the show. And, but years from now, the Super Bowl is going to be remembered for Patrick Mahomes' performance and the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl rather than, Jalen Hurts in the season that he had. And it's kind of, the story of the season at large was Jalen Hurts having an incredible season, however, overshadowed in the MVP race by Patrick Mahomes, and then ultimately overshadowed in the Super Bowl by
yeah,
Patrick
and the
Mahomes.
team race as well. It was, yeah, it's just like,
Another thing that I was thinking about, though, is, you know, obviously the Eagles is just does what he needs to do. Uh, he uses his legs. He passes it a lot. But what I was thinking was last year after the Bengals lose the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow's getting all this praise and all this praise because he deserves it. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is Joe Burrow, but I feel like that's because he's a number one pick. He's expected to be like that. Whereas Jalen Hurts is a second round guy. So even after having a season like this, people still aren't. At least the old heads I find
yeah,
aren't giving him the respect he deserves. I feel like the new generation kind of understands that Jalen Hurts is more so the type of quarterback that is going to be successful in the NFL moving forward.
no, he's the
I feel
future
like.
of the game. He's like, it's just like the kids nowadays growing up wearing number 8 and playing quarterback instead of wearing number 12 because of Lamar. It's like,
Mhm.
this is the direction the game's going, and I think Hurts deserves all the respect in the world for the season he had. I had him pegged as a runner-up for MVP going into it. I thought he was going to be special, so I'm more than happy that he's actually gone out and performed. So Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the media just dissects this Eagles team over the offseason and just how much criticism they get. Because as you said, the Bengals team last year, like, for as criticized their O-line is and everything like that, they were praised and praised and praised. So,
Yeah. And then another thing that I just wanted to note on the Super Bowl before we get into kind of the rest of the season was, um, I I feel like, I don't know, until one of the new age QBs besides Mahomes wins, I still feel like we're clinging on to the previous era. Like I feel like Mahomes is is bridging the gap, I guess, between
he's
the old
trying,
era and
yeah.
the new era. But like until like a Herbert or an Allen or a Burrow wins the Super Bowl, it just still feels like I don't know. It still feels like the league is
Yeah.
being
Well,
run
it's
by
like,
Brady, Rodgers, etc.
well,
Because like yeah, when you look at the last
one of those guys no longer, and maybe the other guy as well, but
But so when you look at the past Super
yeah.
Bowl QBs, you have Mahomes
Stafford.
this year, and then Stafford
Mahomes.
last year. I'd say Stafford's an older era
Stafford's an
guy,
old guard,
and
Lions.
then
And then
the
Brady.
Brady the year before,
Then
obviously an older
Mahomes.
guy, and then Mahomes, Nick Foles,
Nick
or
Foles. Yeah.
Brady, then Nick Foles. Like I just feel like I'm
It's
just
all the old guard, yeah.
and I was just we were so close to seeing Hurts, and then that would have just completely marked the beginning of the new era. But right now it's just
Well,
I
it's like we've had so many chances to enter this new era. Like Jared Goff was in a Super Bowl. Like that was one of our chances, and it was like, yeah, now we realize that no, Jared Goff was not the guy that was going to bring us to the future. But like we've had all these chances to have these young quarterbacks ascend to this next level, and I feel like Hurts was our closest chance to that, I guess.
Yeah, so it seems that the Brady era, officially retiring, is now over. And we're in the Mahomes era. But I already know after seeing them win
Yeah.
two Super Bowls, I could care less to see the Chiefs win again.
I'll enjoy it because my family ties. We'll shout out
Mhm.
Dave Collings for being a Chiefs fan before Mahomes got there,
Yeah.
all the way back in the 90s. So I'll enjoy it through my family ties, and Carolina's bad right now, so I'll enjoy
Yeah,
greatness
I
while I
mean,
can.
Carolina on the come up. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the next great NFL QB. He's already one of the best QBs of all time, just based off of having two Super Bowls. Not a lot of quarterbacks can say they have that.
Isn't it like 12 quarterbacks or like six? It's something really low. It's an exclusive club.
Yeah, no, it is an exclusive club, and I think he'll get a third, and then even then, I think then he's putting himself, ahead of Manning. I think Montana only had two. I'm pretty sure then it'd be only Brady, and then maybe there was like a Cowboys QB that has three, like Aikman or something
Yeah,
like
maybe
that.
something.
Yeah,
Should have been what? Joe or not Joe Kelly, that's the pitcher. Should have been
Jim Kelly,
Jim Kelly on the Bills. Should have been.
Bills could have been. I mean, at least one. Obviously, tough to lose four in a row there.
But no.
But I think as a season, it was what it was. I think I don't know.
It was just kind of like, unremarkable. If I had to use one word to describe this year, it was like unremarkable. Like what actually happened this year? We went through the motions, really. Other than like sadly the DeMar Hamlin thing, which thank goodness he's doing good now.
Yeah.
What was notable about this year? There were no records made. There was like we were on pace for records, but no actual records. Like Tyreek was great, Jefferson was great, but like our award winners weren't exciting. Like I guess the excitement came with the offseason as the GOAT of the sport has retired.
Yeah, I think that's big news. And then the QB carousel heading into this offseason, I think, is going to be something really interesting. I feel like in the last few years, there haven't really been a lot of teams changing up their QB. Obviously, the small teams.
Yeah, I guess the biggest one would be the Rams because they won a Super Bowl. But other than that, it's like the Russell Wilson.
Team, like I feel like this offseason, there's probably between 5 and 10 teams that are looking for a new starting QB, and it's going to be interesting.
It's
going
to be exciting.
Something to follow.
But yeah,
absolutely.
And then the other thing which you said is that the league's always been run by the Bradys and Rodgers. What is Rodgers gonna do? I still don't. I don't have confidence he's coming back next season. Crazy as that might be, I don't. I'm only like 60% confident he's actually gonna return.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Of course, quarterbacks love retiring and
you don't get a lot of you don't get a lot of info on Rodgers. He's kind of secretive. He claims to have this, inner circle or whatever, where they're the only people that are aware of his decisions and such. But I think him going to the Raiders would be cool. I don't
That
know
would
how
be
they
super
really
cool.
afford it, but him going, teaming up with Tay again would be nice.
That's what Tay wants. So
And then Jets have been rumored a lot.
I heard
think the
Jets
Jets.
with what was that with Hackett coming over, being
I
their
think the
OC.
Jets. I think the Jets will ultimately get one of the QBs, whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Lamar, or whether they have to settle for Derek Carr. But
I got Derek Carr.
I think the Jets are for sure going to be a player for a QB, one of those guys. Panthers as well looking.
Panthers, I pray they
Buccaneers now
don't.
looking.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean it depends who you can get.
yeah, true. But it's like, I don't know. I'm still not sold on a lot of the quarterbacks on the current market. Like, I definitely think a lot could be sold and shipped off and find success in elsewhere. But like for the Carolina Panthers and the situation they're in, it's kind of like the Bears right now, where it's like the Bears are in a weird situation in their own, where it's like I don't think they should really be buying, but it's like they need to do something, and it's like they now have this number one pick, where it's that's another team where it's like it's not as simple as like,
Yeah.
but the Panthers, God, if they get a quarterback, I will be angry. I will flat
Even
out
in the
be
draft?
upset. In the draft, no. In the draft, I'll be fine with that.
Yeah.
50-50, like I don't
I mean,
know. I'm so afraid of us going out and getting the next Zach Wilson or getting the next Baker Mayfield again. So it's like I don't trust the draft right now.
Yeah. And then the thing about the draft too is that, there are that top tier of QBs with Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. You can put Will Levis in there. People are liking him. But unlike last year, like last year was a really bad QB year. Only one to go in the first round, and that was Kenny Pickett. Um, so people could look forward to this season. But this season, people can also look forward to next season because we got Caleb Williams
Yeah.
coming into the league next year. North Carolina guy May as well.
Yeah,
Would be
that's what I'm
a guy to
waiting
look
for.
after. So yeah, I think I don't know.
That's why I want.
We'll
That's
see.
why I want the Panthers to fade quarterback again, prioritize offensive line, and then look for one of those two guys in the next year.
However, now that Tom Brady has retired, and I guess after I say this, we can go into the career of Tom Brady because it's not every day you have a guy like this, hang up the books after the type of career he did have.
God, how
But
many
now that
years?
he's gone, what does the NFC South look like?
I think Derek.
I honestly
I
think-
think this is my hot take.
You think Carr goes to the Saints?
Carr goes to the Saints and they take the division.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
think that's a. I
That's
think
if they stay
the most,
healthy.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if Michael Thomas stays healthy
I
enough.
think they cut Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
I think they just cut their ties with him and say, "You're gone." I saw that on a CBS graphic online where it was like he was one of the guys with like Trevor Lumen and like a bunch of other guys there on the chopping block. It's like I have no surprises if he's gone and elsewhere because they really should be cutting their ties. Prioritize Olave, prioritize getting a new wide receiver, and just cut your ties
What
with
if
that.
the Panthers were to get Derek Carr? How would you feel about that?
I don't know. I'd feel the same way I felt about when we got Baker Mayfield. It's going from mid to mid to mid. What does he actually do for us?
Yeah. I don't know.
I like
just
him
think-
in the Saints because I think he actually would do shit for the Saints. I think he would actually dud in that system and thrive. But I think if he came over to Carolina, it would be more of what Baker did.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just the NFC South is so wide open where I feel like the Panthers might be a little more aggressive. Like
They're
than
going to
they
be
would've
more
been
aggressive than
last
they should
offseason.
be. I still think
Yeah.
they should be passive here because they have a good thing going, and I feel like
would
they're
you- like,
one
what if-
move. I feel like they're one move away from ruining what they have going right now. Though that's what I'm scared of. It's like one bad move, one bad player to bring in, one bad player to bring out or ship away, and this whole rebuild is turned upside down, and it's not as good as it looked.
No, it'll be an interesting offseason, lots of storylines, and we'll have, coverage of the offseason as, big moves happen. Free agency, the good thing about NFL free agency is that I feel like kind of everything happens in like 1 or 2 days. It's not like a lingering free agency period.
No.
I feel like most of the big names get signed, and then obviously there are like the veteran guys that you don't really know what type of contract to expect for them, so they maybe wait a little while into the off season.
Yeah.
But we'll have draft episodes and free agent episodes. But yeah. So as I had mentioned, Tom Brady's retired now. Who knows if this is gonna stay? I mean, this sounds real.
I think
He had
this
done the
one
same
looks
thing
real.
last year. Yeah.
Yeah, but this time it's like I don't know. I don't know if you saw. I don't know how true the reports were, but he went back to his ex-wife's place trying to get her back. So I think it's real this time.
Yeah, he went to Giselle's.
That's what I there is a report that went out that said he went back to Giselle's. I mean, they live right down the street from each other, so it's not that weird that he did. But yeah, and then I saw like a meme that was like the Fresh Prince when he's in the open house, and it's like now that Tom Brady doesn't have his wife or football.
Yeah.
But no,
it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting.
He's taking a year off this year, and then he's gonna
do
broadcasting.
Yeah.
Which will be nice. I think he's a great personality. I think Tom in New England was kind of like more seen as like a mean kind of guy, and I feel like he did have bits of personality looking back at it that were positive, but I think in the last few years, I think everyone's come around on Tom Brady, especially seeing him in Tampa. His
Tampa Tom has really been like, it's a lot more wholesome now to cheer for him.
And we've never seen an NFL without Tom Brady, so next season will be interesting in terms of how it'll just feel just not having Tom Brady in the league anymore.
Yeah, it'll be weird. And
even
in his last year
there,
even in his last year there, he was top 5 in passer yards and everything. So
yeah,
it'll be weird.
I'll quickly run through Tom Brady's career accolades. 7 Super Bowls, obviously. 6 with the Patriots, 1 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 5 of those Super Bowls, he was named Super Bowl MVP. He ranks first all-time in wins in the regular season with 251. First all-time in Pro Bowls with 15. First all-time in passing yards in the regular season with just over 89,000. First in passing touchdowns in the regular season with 649. And then he's first in, and then for playoffs, he's first in playoffs appearances, like seasons he's made the playoffs. He made it 20 times in his career, which is crazy.
Older than me still.
He's started 48 games in the playoffs, won 35 of those, and then he's got 10 Super Bowl appearances, 7 wins, and then 14 game-winning drives, 9 fourth-quarter comebacks. Those are both #1 ranks. Pretty much just, he had the longevity to get a lot of those stats. I think in terms of like an individual, in terms of an individual player, you can argue, with, who's a more talented player than him and stuff like that. But I do think that he's the GOAT, and I think it's going to be very, very tough for anybody to come between him and that. You could argue Mahomes has a chance, but I think
Mahomes is the closest one in my eyes.
At least myself, I'll always argue the fact that Mahomes never beat Brady in the playoffs, lost to him in the AFC Championship, and then in the Super Bowl. So I think Mahomes can never surpass him in my eyes.
Beat him. Well, he beat the next best thing this offseason when he beat Joe Burrow. So I'll take that. I'll take that for my Mahomes GOAT debate. Is that he beat Joe Burrow, the Tom Brady Jr. But no, it's unfair. That IQ, that brain, for that long, and not getting injured horribly, that's what makes it the GOAT. It's the longevity and it's excellence throughout that longevity. And it's like LeBron James, where it's like we never hear off the field stuff. How many times has he been in trouble? How many times has he been a bad man? That's GOAT.
More so the Patriots.
More so the Patriots being horrible. Tom Brady himself has not gotten in trouble. LeBron James himself has not gotten in trouble. LeBron James has tampered like crazy, and Tom Brady's gotten in trouble with the league.
Yeah,
but that's what makes you
the GOAT. Similar. They're also similar in the fact that people just want to play with them. People will take discounts to play with them. So he was always surrounded with a really good team, which is nothing against him. People want to play with a guy like Tom Brady. So his first Super Bowl was against the Rams, I want to say.
Field, their greatest show on turf. I think it was Rams, then Carolina.
Then Um, I don't even know.
The one
I
before
just
the
know
Seahawks?
Seahawks his third
No, I
or
think
his
there was.
fourth?
Oh,
Because
I'm
he had
trying to think.
Tampa versus Kansas City, and then 28-3. Then the bad game against the
Yeah,
Eagles.
that game was boring.
Then the
Then
Seahawks, or
Seahawks.
not the Eagles,
Or,
the Rams.
yeah.
The Eagles Patriots was a really good Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Maybe he played the Rams twice in the Super Bowl or something like
Yeah,
that.
back
That's
in the
why
2000s.
or maybe he played the Eagles
Well,
as
he did
well.
play the Rams twice.
I think they beat the Eagles actually. I think with Andy Reid. Um, Brady's Super Bowls. But safe
Yeah,
to say, like he has more Super Bowls than any team in the league, which
yeah,
is just crazy to think. Like, could you imagine if a single player like that'll never
yeah.
happen in hockey?
Any other sport.
Um,
That'd be
pretty
like
much.
if
And then,
LeBron had like 19 rings alone.
mhm,
It's
yeah,
not
which is
happening.
absolutely crazy. Um, so yeah, the first one was against the Rams, then the Panthers, then the Eagles, and he lost twice to the Giants. Eli
Yep.
Manning, the
Yeah, I was trying to
Brady
work out.
killer.
I was trying to work out those years, with the
Hmm.
Giants losing twice, with the 19 and one or 18 and one season.
Hmm. Yeah, just an incredible career. Solid guy, solid leader. There's obviously the memes and stuff from the sideline antics. He would get a little heated, but I
Yeah, well,
mean, he
you
just
have
has such
to.
an expectation
You
of
have to have that
winning.
intensity.
Hmm. And I think there's two types of people. There's people who look at that and say, like he's whining or he's freaking out too much or whatever. But I think that's just his style of leadership, and it's worked for him for so long. Why would he change it? So I guess that's really all there is to say about it.
Well, I
Incredible
mean,
career.
yeah.
Congratulations on your retirement, Tom. And yeah, your first favorite QB
My
ever. You
first
were like,
favorite QB, I was a big Patriots fan when I was first getting into football, and it's just more so because it's consistency. Every time I turned my TV on, it would be Tom Brady throwing a touchdown, or it'd be Tom Brady just throwing the ball, and there would be
mhm,
nothing wrong with it. And when you're a kid and learning a sport, it's those types of things that stick with you. And it was those types of things where it was like, sure, the wide receivers would get the ball, it would be super fun and exciting. I remember watching Simpson do a front flip, the Bengals wide receiver. But I always remember turning on my TV and then it was just Tom Brady highlights was on Sportsnet. And that's what got me hooked on Tom Brady. So it's like an exceptional career and someone who I've been a fan of personally the entire time. So,
mhm. Yeah, he was the NFL for a very long time. Now, I mean, it has been Mahomes in the last couple of years. Oh gosh, now that Brady's out of the league, though, Mahomes might get triple the
he
coverage,
might get a
especially
little too
coming,
much coverage.
especially coming after a Super Bowl win. Um,
Yikes.
I think that's something that us fans are gonna have to just prepare for.
Yeah, we'll have to digest that.
Just get used to seeing Mahomes
Well,
on your screen.
I mean, we're already seeing it. He's our NFL MVP for the year. So,
Hmm.
and then that's also the first time the MVP has gone on to win in the Super Bowl, or like
First time since Kurt Warner actually did it
Kurt Warner
with the
with the
Rams.
Rams in 2000. So it's been over 20 years
But
since
it
it happened.
but it's also that's also one of those exclusive clubs. I'm
Yeah,
not sure who else falls under that
I
list.
think it's just
Um,
those two. I'm trying to remember the
which
graphics I
which
saw.
which is interesting because at least in my fandom, obviously I wasn't alive for Kurt Warner's Super Bowl. I
No,
don't think so at
that
least.
was I think
Um,
2000,
but
2001.
I was under the impression that if you got Super Bowl or if you got the MVP, you weren't going to win the Super Bowl because I can remember from recent history, Cam Newton awarded NFL MVP, loses in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady uh, awarded MVP in the Eagles year,
Lost to the
loses in the
Eagles.
Super Bowl. Matt Ryan awarded NFL MVP, loses
Yeah,
in the Super Bowl. It just seemed to be a tradition of sorts. And then Mahomes is obviously the guy to break that.
yeah.
But yeah, so going into the other awards, we've talked about Patrick Mahomes MVP. Neither of us had him as the preseason MVP.
He wasn't. Yeah,
Um,
he wasn't on my list. I thought I had a few guys having more impressive statistical years, but no, he was that guy.
yeah, and in hindsight, I honestly probably
He should
should
always
have
be an
picked.
honorable mention, no matter what.
Yeah, And with the Chiefs, with them losing Tyreek Hill, for them to even just like made the playoffs and Mahomes to have a good season, I think, you
Yeah,
know,
it was
that
pretty
that might be
likely.
enough for the voters to give it to him. So I was just kind of riding high. You've seen from our predictions, I've been big on the Bills just because I'm a Bills guy and I don't want to be wrong if the Bills, if Allen wins MVP, I want to say, months in advance that he was going to do it. If the Bills win the Super Bowl, I want to say weeks in advance that they do it. So
Yeah,
I was a
so
little bit of a homer this season, but I had big expectations from the Bills. I think they met them for the most part. Obviously, disappointing end of the season, but Josh Allen was my MVP pick. Ended up being Mahomes.
yeah, mine was Herbert. I just thought that the Chargers were one of the most disappointing teams this year. Just
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Staley wasn't the guy for that offensive group, and maybe that offensive group is just not the right core. But no, offensive player of the year I think was as boring of a pick as they could have went. It's just
Offensive
obvious.
player of the year,
Yeah,
yeah,
Opoy,
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. He was
Who was my
on.
pick?
He was not my pick. He was on my list though. I thought we were gonna see a bigger season from McCaffrey.
Yeah,
But congrats on sniping that. I wish there was a different option to choose, but like, who else is it?
yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either. It just
It,
yeah.
it was just a very like chalk season. It felt like.
Yeah, and that's when I say unremarkable is like,
Mhm.
what are we gonna
Yeah,
remember?
like here's the thing, when the Golden State Warriors won, for the second time with Durant, that's just the similar feeling that I'm kind of getting from this season. It's like, okay,
Yep.
another Warriors title, okay, another Chiefs Super Bowl. Like when it's a team, like when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl a few years ago, it was like, Chiefs had never won a Super Bowl before that in history, so it was a huge deal. And Mahomes, it was like, oh, okay, what's he gonna do? But now that they've won two, it's just like,
Yeah, and it's like he won another MVP. It's just like, all right. It's
yeah.
exactly what you mean. That second year, the Warriors won the MVP. It's like, wasn't that was the Harden MVP year, and I
Mhm.
struggled to even remember that because that was an unremarkable NBA season.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I think even though it was the first season that we covered here on the podcast, um, as I mentioned to you right after the Super Bowl, uh, this season has me looking forward to the off season and to next season more than, sitting back and being like, you know what, that was a great season. I'm just happy we were able to have it. Whereas that's kind of
yeah,
how I felt after last year. Last year was a good season
that's just
that
a
I really
great season,
enjoyed.
especially being
And
back in
then,
person again.
yeah, there was
But
a
there was
lot
so much
too.
going on last season. Last season was so historic in so many ways. It felt like,
Hmm.
but yeah. So just Jefferson won it. It's kind of like what we all kind of thought was gonna happen. Depoy was Bosa on the 49ers. Good for him.
Yeah.
If TJ
Yeah.
Watt doesn't get hurt, it's TJ Watt, I think.
Yeah.
Because, like, even when he came back from injury, TJ Watt was so good. My
Mhm.
pick was Micah Parsons. That Cowboys defense wasn't as.
I think
Yeah,
he'll
he
get one
will
eventually.
one day, but that Cowboys defense wasn't what it needed to be this season. And I think the perception of the Cowboys keeps getting worse and worse. So,
I
one
think the
good
Cowboys
season.
defense was what it needed to be. They held
True.
the 49ers to 18 points or something
Yeah,
like that.
19 points in the
Yeah,
game
19,
there. When
12.
I had them winning, they did. Yeah, I know. Maybe, yeah, sure.
If only Dak had a good game. But I mean, that's easier said than done.
Yeah, well,
The
when Dak
49ers D
has a
was
good
just a
game, they put
really
up
tough team
40.
to play. The 49ers D was just really, really tough to play against. Every single game that I watched, there was no other defense in the league, at least in my eyes, that it was just like so hard to get anything going against. It was kind of like,
Yeah, that's a
you
good
couldn't
point.
have those long drives and stuff like that. It was just like it was going to be a play or two that, you know, that's how you're going to get your points, I feel like against the 49ers team, it's tough to have a 20 play drive and just like
Yeah,
chug along the field because eventually they're going to get that stop.
and they had
Shout
that
out to
three
their
in a row.
defensive Shout out to the defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, who's now the new head coach in Houston, which is one of the teams that I'm like most excited about
Yeah, they
for
got
next
so
season.
many pieces coming up. A lot of
And
defensive
they didn't
studs.
get the number one pick, which I feel like is a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I think, the Bears. I think what the Bears end up doing is probably trading back,
Yeah,
just because I think there's going to be a team willing to give up a good enough package to try to trade up and get Bryce Young ahead of the Texans. That the Bears won't refuse it, and I don't think the Bears are moving way back down in the draft. I think it'll be like
No,
the
they'll be in the
Colts or
top
the
10
Raiders
still.
or something like that. But yeah, but it might be a blessing in disguise getting that number 2 pick, because as much as I like Bryce Young, there's some good defensive players in this draft, and the Texans aren't going to be really good next season again. So maybe you take a defensive player, you got a defensive minded head coach coming in, you develop those guys, and then next year you take a guy like Caleb Williams, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden your team is, I don't know.
You just
In the
gotta
AFC South,
go
in the
through
AFC
one
South,
year of like pissed off fans, and then that would be beautiful. But think about how mad Brandon Cooks was this year. Like, he's gone for sure, but just think about how toxic that seemed. If they could stomach one more year, I completely agree. That would be so nasty if they got a Caleb Williams next draft.
the Texans, I'm really excited for the new era of the Texans, because I just like the J.J. Watt, D Hop, and then like Deshaun at the end of it era. It was like there were some fun seasons, sure, where the Texans were like a fun team to watch.
Fun team.
But I don't know,
Overrated. They're
they've
one of
just
the
kinda
more
been,
overrated teams.
yeah. And then in the last few years, they've just been, next to unwatchable. So
Yeah.
getting a guy like D'Amico Ryans, I think I'm really excited
That'll
about
help.
that.
So we could jump into some rookies now. We're talking about the younger teams. Offensive rookie of the year. I didn't have him as an honorable mention. I picked my picks. I think I went with Hall actually.
Yeah, Brees Hall. Brees Hall was probably gonna win it if he doesn't tear his ACL.
Yeah, he was incredible. But instead, it goes to his teammate Garrett Wilson, who was also very good.
Who was good. He had some notable games, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't a week to week number 1 receiver, I felt like.
I feel like Olave was that a lot more than Wilson was.
I'd say like across the board, Olave had like a more steady season, but Wilson, had those big games,
Big catches, big moments.
He had the 2 touchdown game in the Mike White game against the Bears. Like that was big for them. I think the Jets, they started out really good. They were like 7-4, and then they fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
But they're still able to sweep the rookie awards. They also got the defensive player rookie of the year,
with
Sauce Gardner.
Nailed that pick. That was my one that I was 100% confident he was going to win.
I think we both had Sauce.
Yeah, you also had Sauce because, I mean, come on, that was the storyline. Everyone read the script before the season started. We knew it was going to be Sauce winning it.
And I think with a guy like him, the Jets D is really, really, really good. And I'm not even overstating that. I feel like people don't realize how solid they actually are. I watched them play live this year. They held the Bills to 20 points. They lose the game because their offense can only put up 12. I think it was 20-12 final score.
Yeah, is that a Zach Wilson game, or who was the starting quarterback?
No, it was Mike White, and then that's when he got hurt.
Oh, that's when he took the huge hit, and they were trying to kill Mike White. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also saw Joe Flacco a bit in that game, but no Zach Wilson.
No Zach Wilson for that one.
Where does Zach Wilson go from now? Who knows?
The Carolina Panthers.
Oh gosh, no.
I hope not, but no. No, he's a candidate for comeback player of the year next year in my mind. Honestly, Zach Wilson.
I think, yeah, if he's the starter.
If he's a starter somewhere, puts up big numbers, and doesn't do his Jamarcus Russell thing and be like the biggest bust of all time, then I really think then he could be a comeback player of the year.
No, I fully agree.
I don't think either of us had even mentioned the comeback player of the year, though, in our preseason picks.
Yeah.
I know I didn't.
No, because when you think comeback player of the year, you typically are like, okay, who's coming off of injury?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite
have
things.
A big season.
It was like,
so I think that's just what we were looking at.
One of my favorite jokes was like, what was Geno Smith coming back from being ass?
Yeah.
And it's like,
no,
yeah,
exactly. So he really wasn't on anyone's radar, but it was just sort of like the career comeback and
revitalization.
Seattle.
Yeah, just everything.
Yeah, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and now we're seeing him be now hopefully he can continue to be a high completion, smart play, like steady quarterback. Like that'd be awesome. But yeah, comeback player of the year, Geno Smith. I don't really know who else should win it, honestly. He was kind of the story of the year.
Maybe CMC just because
he was statistically very good.
Yeah.
But
And he's known to not be able to stay healthy. And then he
yeah,
didn't in Carolina. People were like, "Oh, same old CMC," but then gets traded to the Niners and doesn't miss a game, I'm pretty sure,
did
with the
not miss a
Niners.
game. Even played some quarterback
Yeah.
in quotes in the playoffs. So
Well, yeah,
yeah,
he was their fifth string guy that he would have had to take over, I'm pretty sure. Which would have been a very like honestly, low key. I think it was Jones or like something like
the
that.
random guy that the backup that's 75% of his games he was coming into them.
Yeah, so the guy that played when Purdy got hurt. This just like I don't know how well Christian McCaffrey throws the ball, but I feel like the Niners might have had a better
They would have
chance
been
with
able to
McCaffrey.
design better plays with McCaffrey
Yeah.
just in Wildcat the entire time rather than that guy going out there and doing
hmm
nothing.
It just seemed like after Purdy got hurt, there was no chance that the
I don't
Niners
know
were
if
gonna
you've
win
seen
that
it,
game.
but there's a video from on YouTube where it's like the reactions of all the 49ers players after Purdy got hurt, and it's just heartbreaking to realize that, like, well, that's the game. Like, that's
Yeah.
the season. And
hmm
everyone knows it, and Kittle's trying to keep everyone happy, but it's like they knew it was over.
Yeah, and then he tried to come back in, for a bit and didn't. I think he threw one ball, but it was like a check down. He ends up needing surgery,
That
maybe ready for the start of next season. But
I would say no with
Col-
Tommy John.
I don't know if it was Colin Coward or Nick Wright, but one of them was just going into the championship weekend. They were saying like who has the most to win or like who has the most to gain, who has the most to lose from the upcoming thing, and they were saying how Brock Purdy has the most to gain and the most to lose because if Brock Purdy stays healthy, leads them to that win in the conference championship, maybe even a Super Bowl win, how are you not gonna how is he not your week one starter next year?
Yeah,
Whereas now the fact that he gets hurt, they lose that game, he could now just become a career backup instead
true.
of being a
That's
guy that
yeah.
would have had a career made for him. So it's unfortunate that he has to get hurt by former Carolina Panther Hassan Reddick.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunate.
but yeah, I mean it is
No,
what it is.
honestly, that one game might be the difference between him having a starting quarterback role forever and being a Nick Foles type of guy.
The one thing that I wouldn't hate to see the Niners do, just because you know Kyle Shanahan can draw up plays for quarterbacks like no other person and just make it easy for them. You know, maybe ease Trey Lance back into it and play both of them. They're both on rookie contracts, so it's not like, you have to choose
Yeah.
one or the other. Maybe if you're winning in games, play Trey Lance. He's a little bit more of a run guy. He's going to get you that ball, just get you those first downs, kill that clock. Whereas if you're behind in games and you trust Purdy's arm a little bit more, then you can go Purdy. But I think at the very least, Brock Purdy is, you know, solidified himself as a guy who's going to be able to get backup roles
Yeah.
for a whole
And he
career.
should get a few like starting spots.
Yeah, like
I
at
think
least
but based
chances
off
to
based
win
off the
over a
way he
starting
ended the
role.
regular season, he's earned at least one starting spot on a bad team.
hmm
So,
And to quote, but yeah, so I think he's become a career backup at the very least. And to quote Taylor Heineke, who was on, it might have been the Pat McAfee show, I'm not sure, but he
Pat McAfee, you're
said,
busting with the boys something.
like being a backup quarterback in the NFL, this is one of the best jobs in America,
Yup.
which is like gotta be true. Like obviously there's still the chance that you come in and play, but just
Yeah, and then
all
you
you
have
have
to
to
be a
do is
quarterback.
know the playbook. All you have to do is know the playbook, show up to practice, and you're still making more money than some starters in the league just because quarterback's so valuable. You're even
Honestly,
paying your backup a few mil.
no,
But
that's a great point.
yeah. And
But no,
then
the last award
award.
is Coach of the Year that we talked about, and I know for a fact neither one of us had this guy as our.
I think I had mentioned him
Did
in that
you?
episode, or I'd started to mention him after like week 1 or 2. But yeah, Brian Dable, the Bills offensive coordinator from last season. Nice to see him go, and
Yeah.
really, finally, the Giants are headed in the right direction. They had
God.
Joe Judge as their coach. I can't even like name all their coaches. They just had gone through a
They had
carousel of
the
coaches.
former Cowboys head coach.
I think he was their OC,
It
Jason
didn't.
Garrett. He
Yeah,
was their
Jason
OC
Garrett
for a
did not
bit.
work out great.
Yeah, and finally now, Dayball, he unless they have like a bunch of losing seasons in a row, I feel like he's beloved enough in New York where he could, he could be a head coach for the next 20 years for them. Like
Honestly, I
they've
honestly
got a
hope he
guy.
is. I
They've
honestly
got a
hope they got
guy.
their guy because yeah, an incredible season, and I really think that like he solidified it as soon as they reached like what was their record at one point? They're like 5-1, 5-2. Like
Hmm.
they had a crazy
They were
good
like seven.
yeah
They were 7-2, I
7-2.
think, at their
I
peak.
think the moment they reached 7-2, it was like this guy's coach of the year.
Yeah,
No, and
and
I
then
think
they did
I
just
think
enough to make playoffs.
yeah I
Got a
think
win in the playoffs.
that's the craziest part to me, and like definitely helped his odds. But like, wow, that rebuilding Giant squad got a win. It was, and that was who did they beat in that game? The Vikings, right?
Hmm. Now
Where
another
did they go
thing, now
from
that I
there?
think about it, like relating to like the midness of the outcome of the season it was the number one seed versus number one seed in the Super
True.
Bowl. It wasn't like, and even in the conference finals, like there was it was Bengals and 49ers as the losing team. Like there wasn't any underdog to root for. It could have been the Giants had they pulled off the upset
Yeah.
against the Eagles. I thought they were going to have a way better game than they ended up having against the Eagles because they
Yeah.
played them pretty well in week 18 without Daniel Jones. And then the Eagles had Hurts back. They were just trying to like
They
give
were
him some
yeah
reps before the
easing him
playoffs.
back into it.
But yeah, the
I
Eagles
don't know.
just dominated that game.
I think
Um,
I think I'm
it,
more excited about predicting Coach of the Year for next year now. I really think next year is Mike McDaniel's year to win Coach of the Year. We'll get more
oh
into
yeah,
that. We'll get more into that when we talk about our
Sean
award
Payton.
predictions. Sean Payton on the comeback is enticing, but we'll get more into
There's
that on
there's a
our
lot of new
predictions.
coaches. Yeah, no, we will. One question and one prediction for next season. Since the Eagles did it in the mid 2000s, the NFC East has not had a repeat winner in the last like 15 years. I think next year is probably the best chance that it's going to be a repeat winner with the Eagles, but the Cowboys could overlap them.
The Vikings could
The Vik
too.
No, the Giants. Giants could overlap them. Vikings are in a different division.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
Vikings are with the Packers in that division.
so
With the
Cowboys could
Bears.
overlap them,
Oh, and then Sam
and then
Howell with the
but
Commanders.
listen, with Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator, now going over to the Commanders, and I think what'll happen is if they're good this year, things will stay the same. If they're mid to bad this year, I think Ron Rivera gets fired and Eric Bieniemy steps in as the new head coach. I think
Yeah,
that's what's gonna happen. I don't know. I'm excited.
I'm
Just
so excited.
so many different like teams, like even just the mid teams, and I get so excited over teams that end up going like 6-10 or like 6-11. But
Yeah.
it's just like to think on paper what these teams could be. It's always exciting.
It's
To
so
look forward to
exciting.
next year.
And I think this was an NFL season that, like you said, was really just getting us excited for the next one. So
Mhm.
I can't
It
wait
was
for the
just
next
like
one.
it was just a placeholder season
Was.
in the
It
grand
was.
scheme of things. It was just another season to remind us that Mahomes is Mahomes, and you know it's too bad that I don't know.
I don't
It's
know. I
it's
think next year is when we're getting the fireworks. That's what I think.
Yeah,
So
no, I would love that.
so that's all I really have to say about the NFL season. It was a pretty good
Hmm.
one. My first one actually covering the NFL fully and like properly. So it was really fun.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed talking about it. Obviously, there's so many storylines throughout the year, but I think next season there's just gonna be so much going on. Whereas like this year, now that I think about it, like in the early weeks of the
There was
season, like
so
who are the
much. There was
like
so much because of all the new players on their new teams. That was
mhm.
the exciting part. As soon as players got settled in, snooze.
Yeah, like I think a big part of why the season was so was because there was really only two true contenders in the NFC. Like it was
Yeah.
kind of after midseason, you kind of knew it was going to be the Eagles or the 49ers, like
Yeah,
maybe
maybe the
like
Vikings.
yeah,
But even then, no, we kind of
or the
knew.
Cowboys or whatever. And just the amount of teams that didn't live up to expectations.
Oh,
The Broncos totally didn't live up to expectations. The Rams, they
the
were one of
Broncos
the
killed both of us. The
yeah.
Rams killed me horribly. I know the Packers got you good coming into this season.
Yeah,
So
I mean Packers they
I'm
ended up
excited for them.
and
I want Jordan Love
I
so bad to take over.
in hindsight, when you're the Packers, it's like, okay, Aaron Rodgers is going to give you the best chance to win a Super Bowl. But knowing that they missed the playoffs this year, I'm sure they wished they had have traded Rodgers last season.
I think so
Gotten
too.
Jordan Love a whole full year under his belt as the starter. But yeah, I don't know.
So yeah,
I think I'm excited for next
no.
season. The Lions.
The Lions are gonna be big.
Lions?
Lions are
Could
making
they
the
win the
playoffs.
division?
We'll have to wait and see. We'll do some division
They
predictions.
went 2-0 against the Packers.
Nah, we'll do some division
They
predictions and
might
we'll
win
really
2-0.
get into this because next year we might have some huge upsets when picking these division winners. I'm not gonna lie to you. I might pick some underdog teams coming out of here. So
Yeah, like my division winners in the NFC could be like, let's just go Eagles just to say that they go back to back. It's gonna be hard to not pick them. And then Lions,
Saints, Panthers, anything can happen. I cannot wait for next year. So that was our recap for the 2023 or 2022-2023 season. If I had to use one word to describe it, it'd be unremarkable. But if I had to use a sentence to describe it, it would be excited me for next year. So thank you everyone for listening. A little bit shorter than we usually do because we actually wanted to keep this one concise. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next time we record.